Admiral Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, staring at the stars beyond the massive viewing window. His ship was the pride of Earth's fleet, a warship so powerful that even the largest alien vessels gave it respect. He had served the Galactic Council for 5 years now, following their orders, fighting their enemies, protecting their interests. Earth had joined the Council with hope in their hearts. They believed the promises of peace, prosperity, and protection. They believed they had finally found their place among the stars. But tonight, everything felt wrong. Captain Da-Yun walked quickly across the bridge, her face tight with worry. She carried a datapad that glowed with encrypted messages. She had been working in the communication room for hours, and what she found there made her blood run cold. She stopped beside Tae-sung and handed him the pad without a word. Tae-sung took it and began to read. His eyes widened with each line. The messages were between council members, discussing Earth and humanity like they were nothing more than tools. They called humans useful weapons. They laughed about how easy it was to trick Earth into serving them. They made plans to take control of Earth's government, to put their own people in charge to make sure humanity would never be free again. The worst part came at the end. The Council had made a deal. They had sold Earth's location to the Vex Armada, a group of brutal alien warriors who destroyed entire planets for resources. In exchange, the Vex would leave Council worlds alone. Earth was the payment. Earth was the sacrifice. Tae-sung felt his hands shake. His homeworld, his family, his entire species, all of it was going to be destroyed, and the Council had arranged it. The people Earth had trusted, the alliance they had believed in, it was all a lie. Commander Huan arrived on the bridge next. He was a quiet man who preferred working with computers and data instead of people, but now his face showed pure anger. He carried his own data pad filled with information he had been collecting for weeks. He had suspected something was wrong with the Council for a long time. Now he had proof. Huan showed them records of other species who had joined the Council. Dozens of them. Each one had been used and then destroyed when they were no longer needed. Some were enslaved. Some were sold to enemies. Some simply disappeared. The Council had been doing this for centuries. They found species that were strong or useful, worked them until they had nothing left to give, and then got rid of them. Humanity was next on the list. Lieutenant Ji-woo was the youngest officer on the bridge. She was brilliant with codes and encryption, able to break into systems that others thought were impossible to crack. She had been working day and night to decode more Council files. What she found was a complete schedule. The Vex Armada would attack Earth in 3 weeks. They had already assembled a massive fleet at the border of Council space. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all waiting for the order to jump into human space and begin the invasion. Earth had no idea it was coming. The Council had made sure of that. They had blocked all long-range communications from human ships. They had told Earth's government that everything was fine, that humanity was safe under Council protection. They had even convinced Earth to send more ships and soldiers to help with Council wars, leaving Earth itself poorly defended. It was a perfect trap. Tae-sung looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, waiting for orders. These were good people, loyal people. They had all believed in the Council's mission. They had all thought they were making the galaxy a better place. Now they knew the truth. Now they had to make a choice. If they sent a warning to Earth, the Council would know. They would be marked as traitors. Their ship would be attacked. They would probably all die. But if they said nothing, if they kept following orders and pretended everything was normal, Earth would be destroyed. Everyone they loved would die. Humanity would end. Da-Yun spoke first. Her voice was steady and strong. She said they had to warn Earth no matter what it cost them. They could not let their entire species die just to save themselves. Huan agreed. He said the Council had done this to too many others. Someone had to stop them. Ji-woo nodded. She was afraid, but she knew what was right. One by one, every officer on the bridge made the same choice. They would warn Earth. They would tell the truth. They would fight if they had to. Tae-sung felt pride fill his chest. This was humanity. This was what made them special. When faced with impossible choices, when everything seemed lost, humans did not give up. They did not hide. They stood up and fought back even when it meant certain death. He gave the order. Ji-woo began preparing the message. It would contain everything they had discovered. Every file, every communication, every piece of evidence. Earth would know the truth about the Council. Earth would know about the coming attack. Earth would have time to prepare. But sending the message was not easy. The Council had blocked normal communication channels. Jiwoo had to find another way. She worked for hours, her fingers flying across the controls, breaking through firewalls and security systems. She finally found an old emergency channel that the Council had forgotten about. It was slow and weak, but it would work. The message was sent. Immediately, alarms began to sound. The Council had detected the transmission. They knew someone had broken through their blocks. They would figure out it was the Indomitable soon enough. Tae-sung ordered his ship to move. They had to get away from Council space before the Council fleet arrived. The Indomitable was powerful, but it could not fight the entire Council military alone. They needed to survive long enough for Earth to respond. As his ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, Tae-sung allowed himself one moment of hope. The message was sent. Earth would know. Whatever happened next, humanity would not go down without a fight. The Council had betrayed them, had tried to destroy them. But the Council had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity. Tae-sung smiled. The Council thought humans were just useful weapons, tools to be used and thrown away. They were about to learn the truth. Humans were not weapons. Humans were survivors. Humans were warriors. And when you betrayed a human, when you threatened their home and their families, you did not get a weapon pointed at your enemies. You got that weapon pointed at you. The message from Admiral Tae-sung reached Earth at 3 a.m, Geneva time. Director Mi-young was pulled from her bed by security officers who told her it was an emergency. She arrived at Earth Defense Headquarters 15 minutes later, still wearing her sleeping clothes under a military jacket. What she saw on the screens made her forget about being tired. The message contained everything. Files showing the Council's betrayal, communications proving they had sold Earth to the Vex, evidence of dozens of other species who had been destroyed the same way. And worst of all, the schedule showing that the Vex Armada would attack in less than 3 weeks. Mi-young read through it all twice. She wanted to believe it was fake, some kind of trick or mistake. But she knew Tae-sung. She had worked with him for years. He would not send something like this unless he was absolutely certain it was true. Besides, the evidence was too detailed, too complete. This was real. Earth was going to be attacked. Millions of people were going to die unless they did something right now. She grabbed her communication device and started making calls. First, she contacted the president, then the military commanders, then the heads of every defense facility on the planet. Within an hour, every important person in Earth's government was awake and reading the message from Tae-sung. Some of them did not want to believe it. They argued that the Council had been good to Earth, that this must be a mistake. But Mi-young cut through their doubts with simple facts. The Council had asked Earth to send most of its military ships away. The Council had blocked communications with those ships. The Council had convinced Earth to share all its defensive technology and positions. If someone wanted to set up Earth for an attack, they could not have done it better. The president made the decision. Earth would prepare for war. They would mobilize every ship, every weapon, every soldier. They would not wait to be attacked. They would not hope the Council would change its mind. They would trust Tae-sung's warning and they would survive. Mi-young immediately ordered a total military mobilization. Every ship that could fly was called back to Earth. Every weapon factory went to full production. Every person with military training was called to duty. Earth had not seen mobilization like this since the Old World Wars centuries ago. But this time they were not fighting each other. They were fighting for their survival as a species. Engineer Sung-min was one of the first people Mi-young called. He worked at the Advanced Research Facility in Seoul, a place where Earth's best scientists developed new technology. Sung-min had been working on something secret for years, something the Council did not know about. When Earth joined the Council, they were told to share all their technology. They were told the Council needed to know everything to properly protect them. Most of Earth's leaders had agreed, but a few, including Mi-young, had been suspicious. They had kept some projects hidden. They had continued developing weapons and ships in secret, just in case the Council was not as friendly as it seemed. Now that decision was going to save them. Sung-min's secret project was a new type of engine called a quantum drive. It could make ships move faster than anything the Council had. It could make ships jump between stars almost instantly. It could give Earth's fleet an advantage that no one expected. The only problem was that the engines had never been fully tested. They might work perfectly, or they might explode and destroy any ship that used them. Sung-min told Mi Young that he needed at least a year to finish testing. She told him he had 5 days. Then she ordered every ship in Earth's fleet to be fitted with the new engines. Sung-min protested, said it was too dangerous. Mi Young looked at him and said that Earth being destroyed was more dangerous. Sung-min understood. He got to work. All across Earth, people worked without sleeping. Factories ran 24 hours a day. Shipyards that had been quiet for years roared back to life. Weapons that had been stored away were brought out and prepared. Earth's military had been small and mostly ceremonial when they joined the council. Now it grew into something much larger and much more dangerous. Colonel Yoon Seo commanded Earth's ground forces. She had spent the last 5 years training soldiers for council peacekeeping missions. Boring work mostly. Now she trained them for real war. She taught them how to fight against Vex warriors, who were bigger and stronger than humans. She taught them how to defend cities and bunkers. She taught them that they would probably die, but if they died well, they might save others. Her soldiers were afraid. She was afraid too. But fear could be useful. Fear made you careful. Fear made you focused. Fear kept you alive if you learned how to control it. Yoon Seo made sure her soldiers understood that. She made them ready. Scientist Jae-hyun worked in a different kind of laboratory. His job was to develop new weapons. For years, the council had limited what kind of weapons Earth could make. They said it was for safety, to prevent accidents. But really it was to keep Earth weak. Jae-hyun had hated those limits. Now they were gone. He worked on weapons that could destroy ships from incredible distances. He worked on bombs that could crack open the armor of Vex war machines. He worked on defense systems that could protect Earth's cities from orbital attack. Some of his weapons were based on old ideas that the council had banned. Some were completely new, things no one had ever tried before. All of them were designed to kill as efficiently as possible. After 2 weeks of constant work, Earth's fleet was ready. 5,000 ships, each one equipped with Sung-min's quantum drives and Jae-hyun's weapons. It was not as large as the Council's fleet or the Vex Armada, but it was powerful, more powerful than anyone expected Earth could build. The Council noticed something was happening. They sent ambassadors to Earth asking why there was so much military activity. They demanded explanations. They ordered Earth to stand down and submit to Council authority for an investigation. Mi Young met with the Council ambassadors in the United Nations building. She listened to their demands with a calm face. Then she showed them the message from Tae-sung. She showed them their own communications, their own plans to betray humanity. She watched their faces turn pale as they realized Earth knew everything. The ambassadors tried to explain. They said it was a misunderstanding. They said the Council had only Earth's best interests in mind. They said Earth should trust them and not believe lies from a traitor like Tae-sung. Mi Young let them finish. Then she stood up and delivered Earth's response. It was simple and clear. Earth rejected the Council's authority. Earth rejected the Council's protection. Earth would defend itself. And Earth would make the Council pay for its betrayal. The ambassadors were arrested. Their ships were seized. Their communications were blocked. The Council would get no more information from Earth. The Council would not know what was coming. Admiral Tae-sung received a message from Earth. It contained new orders. He was to take command of the entire human fleet. He was to lead them into Council space. He was to destroy the Council's ability to make war. Earth was not going to wait for the Vex to attack. Earth was going to strike first. Tae-sung read the orders 3 times. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been pushed too far and was finally allowed to push back. The Council had treated humanity like weapons, like tools, like things that did not matter. Now they were going to see what human weapons could really do. The fleet assembled at the edge of solar system. 5,000 ships all ready for war. Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at them through the view screen. Each ship carried human soldiers. Each ship carried human weapons. Each ship was going into battle knowing they might not come back. But they were going anyway. Because that was what humans did. When someone threatened their home, they did not hide. They did not surrender. They fought back with everything they had. Tae-sung gave the order. The quantum drives activated. 5,000 ships disappeared from human space in a flash of light. When they reappeared, it would be above Council Prime. the heart of the government that had betrayed them. The council thought they had set a perfect trap for humanity. They were about to learn that they had trapped themselves instead. 5,000 human ships appeared above Council Prime without warning. One moment the space around the planet was quiet and normal. The next moment it was filled with warships that should not have been able to travel that far that fast. The Council Defense Force had no time to prepare. They had no time to organize. They barely had time to realize they were under attack before the humans opened fire. Captain Dayun commanded the first wave. Her squadron of 300 ships hit the outer defense stations like a hammer. The Council had built those stations to be strong. They were covered in thick armor. They had powerful shields. They had enough weapons to destroy entire fleets. But they were designed to fight enemies who would come slowly, who would give warning, who would follow the normal rules of war. Humans did not follow those rules anymore. Dayun's ships used the new weapons that scientist Jae-hyun had created. Missiles that moved so fast the defense stations could not track them. Energy beams that cut through shields like they were made of paper. Bombs that caused explosions strong enough to crack the station's armor from the inside. Within 20 minutes, the outer defense ring was gone. Burning debris floated where the stations had been. The Council Defense Force finally responded. Hundreds of their ships rushed out from the planet to stop the human attack. They were bigger than the human ships. They had been fighting for centuries. They thought their experience would let them win easily. They thought wrong. Commander Huan had studied Council battle tactics for weeks. He knew how they liked to fight. They formed large groups and used their numbers to overwhelm enemies. They relied on heavy armor to protect them, while they slowly destroyed opponents. They never expected enemies to be faster or smarter than them. Human ships did not fight that way. They split into small groups that moved quickly and attacked from different directions. They did not try to trade shots with the larger Council ships. Instead, they hit weak points. They targeted engines and weapon systems. They disabled shields and then struck at the armor underneath. They fought like wolves hunting much larger animals, working together to bring down prey that should have been too strong for them. The Council ships fell one by one. Their commanders could not understand what was happening. They had never fought an enemy like this. They had never faced opponents who moved so fast, who thought so differently, who seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum damage. Admiral Tae-sung watched the battle from the Indomitable. He felt no joy in the destruction. These Council soldiers were not his enemy. Most of them probably had no idea their government had betrayed humanity. They were just following orders just like he used to do. But they were in his way, and Earth could not afford mercy. Not now. Not when humanity's survival was at stake. He gave orders to press the attack. Human ships pushed deeper into Council space, destroying everything military they found. Communications arrays were blown apart. Supply depots were reduced to rubble. Repair stations were left burning. The Council had spent centuries building its military infrastructure. Humans destroyed it in hours. Lieutenant Jiwoo worked from her station on the Indomitable's bridge. While the battle raged outside, she fought a different kind of war. Her war was against the Council's computer systems. She broke through their firewalls and took control of their networks. She shut down their planetary shields. She disabled their communication systems. She made sure the Council could not call for help, could not organize a proper defense, could not even understand how badly they were losing. The shields protecting Council Prime flickered and then vanished. The planet was defenseless. Tae-sung could have ordered his fleet to bombard it from orbit. He could have killed millions of Council citizens in minutes. Part of him wanted to. They had tried to do the same to Earth. They deserved to feel that same fear, that same helplessness. But he did not give that order. Humanity was fighting to survive, not to commit genocide. Humanity was fighting to stop the Council, not to become like them. There was a difference between justice and revenge. Tae-sung knew which one he was after. Instead, he ordered ground forces to land. General Byung-ho led 10,000 soldiers down to the planet's surface. Their mission was specific. They were to capture the Council chambers where the government met. They were to arrest the Council members who had betrayed Earth. They were to do it with as little civilian bloodshed as possible. Byung-ho's soldiers landed in the capital city. The Council had security forces, but they were trained to stop protesters and handle small problems. They were not trained to fight real soldiers. They were definitely not trained to fight humans who had been betrayed and were looking for payback. The human soldiers moved through the city quickly. They wore armor that made them strong and fast. They carried weapons that could punch through walls. They used tactics that confused the council security forces. Within 2 hours, they had reached the council chambers. The council members were holding an emergency meeting. They were arguing about what to do. Some wanted to surrender, some wanted to fight, some wanted to run and hide. None of them had expected this. They thought Earth would be an easy target. They thought humans would be destroyed by the Vex without ever knowing the council had betrayed them. They never imagined humans would find out and strike back so quickly and so hard. The doors to the chamber exploded inward. Human soldiers poured through the smoke. The council members tried to escape, but there was nowhere to go. In minutes, they were all in custody. The most powerful government in the galaxy had been captured by the species they thought they could use and throw away. Admiral Tae-sung came down to the planet's surface to see them. The council members were held in their own detention cells, the same cells they had used for political prisoners. Tae-sung walked past each cell and looked at the aliens inside. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. Some just looked confused. One of them, a council leader who had personally signed the order to sell Earth to the Vex, spoke to him. The alien said that Tae-sung did not understand. The alien said the council had been ruling the galaxy for thousands of years. The alien said humans were young and foolish, that they should be grateful the council even noticed them. Tae-sung listened quietly. Then he responded. He said the council had ruled for thousands of years by lying and betraying others. He said the council had survived by being the biggest bully in the galaxy. He said that humans might be young, but they learned fast, and what they had learned from the council was that power meant nothing without honor. The council had power but no honor. They deserved what happened to them. He turned and left the cells. Behind him, the council members sat in silence. Their empire was broken. Their military was destroyed. Their homeworld was occupied by the very species they had tried to eliminate. Everything they had built over centuries was coming apart in a single day. Tae-sung returned to the Indomitable. From the bridge, he could see Council Prime below, a beautiful planet, home to billions of people who had trusted their leaders to protect them. Those leaders had failed. Those leaders had been more interested in keeping power than doing what was right. Now everyone was paying the price. He sent a message to Earth. The message was simple. Council Prime had fallen. The council government was captured. The council military was defeated. Earth's first strike was a complete success. But the war was not over. The council controlled hundreds of worlds. The Vex Armada was still gathering at the border. There was much more work to do. Director Mi-young received the message on Earth. She read it twice, hardly believing what she was seeing. Earth's fleet had done the impossible. They had struck at the heart of the council and won. Humanity had gone from being victims about to be destroyed to being the ones doing the destroying. She sent orders to Tae-sung. The fleet was to continue operations. They were to spread out across council space and destroy military targets. They were to free any species being oppressed by the council. They were to show the galaxy that the council's time was over. Most importantly, they were to send a message to the Vex Armada. The message would tell the Vex that their deal with the council was finished. The message would tell them that if they still wanted to attack Earth, they would have to go through the entire human fleet first. The message would tell them that humanity was not prey. Humanity was a predator, and Earth was done being afraid. News of Council Prime's fall spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The Council had controlled information for so long that people had forgotten what real news looked like. Now the truth was everywhere. The Council had been defeated. The Council had been captured. Humanity, the young species everyone had ignored, had done what no one thought possible. On dozens of worlds, species that had been oppressed by the Council began to hope. They had suffered under Council rule for years, some for centuries. The Council had taken their resources. The Council had controlled their governments. The Council had told them it was for their own good, for peace and order. But really it was just exploitation with a nice name. When they heard that humanity was fighting the Council, many of these species wanted to help. They sent secret messages to Earthships. They offered supplies. They offered information about Council military positions. Some even offered soldiers to fight alongside humans. Colonel Yoon Seo was assigned to work with these new allies. She had expected to spend the war defending Earth from invasion. Instead, she found herself training alien soldiers to fight against the Council. It was strange at first. These aliens looked different. They thought different. They had different ways of fighting. But they all had one thing in common. They all hated the Council. They all wanted freedom. Yun Seo taught them human military tactics. She taught them how to move fast and strike hard. She taught them that size and strength mattered less than speed and intelligence. She taught them that the Council had ruled by making everyone think they were too powerful to fight. Once you stopped believing that, once you realized the Council could be heard, everything changed. The alien soldiers learned fast. Within weeks, they were fighting alongside human troops. Within months, they were leading their own missions. They attacked Council outposts on their homeworlds. They sabotaged Council supply lines. They spread word that resistance was possible, that the Council could be defeated. Scientist Jae Hyun had a different job. The Council had suppressed technology for decades. They allowed only certain types of weapons and ships. They said it was to prevent wars, but really it was to keep everyone weaker than them. Now Jae Hyun was sharing everything humanity knew. He gave designs for better engines to any species that asked. He gave plans for more powerful weapons. He gave knowledge freely without asking for anything in return. Some Earth officials questioned this. They said humanity should keep its advantages. They said Earth should be the strongest power in the galaxy, just like the Council had been. Jae Hyun disagreed. He said the Council had fallen because it hoarded power and created enemies everywhere. Earth would not make that mistake. Earth would share knowledge and make friends instead. Director Mi Young supported Jae Hyun's approach. She understood that Earth could not control the entire galaxy alone. Humanity was strong, but they were still one species among hundreds. The only way to truly defeat the Council was to help others become strong too. A galaxy of free, equal species would be much harder for any tyrant to control. She coordinated attacks across 50 star systems. Human ships struck Council military bases. Allied forces attacked Council government buildings. Resistance fighters on occupied worlds rose up against Council troops. The Council tried to respond, but their forces were spread too thin. Every time they sent ships to deal with one problem, 3 more problems appeared somewhere else. The Council's member races began to turn against their own government. They had joined the Council because they were promised protection and prosperity. They had stayed because leaving seemed impossible. Now they saw that the Council was losing. They saw that the Council had been lying to them for years. Many decided they would rather take their chances with humanity than keep supporting a government that had failed them. Commander Huan led missions to liberate slave colonies. The Council had kept these colonies secret, hidden from the rest of the galaxy. The aliens there were treated worse than animals. They were forced to mine resources, build weapons, grow food, all for the Council's benefit. They were told they were criminals, that they deserved their punishment. Most of them had never committed any crime. They were just unlucky enough to be from species the Council found useful. When human ships arrived at these colonies, the slaves could not believe it. They thought it was a trick. They thought the Council was testing them. But Huan and his soldiers proved they were real. They broke open the prison doors. They destroyed the control systems. They gave the slaves weapons and ships. They gave them freedom. Many of those freed slaves joined the fight against the Council. They had reasons to hate the Council that went deeper than any betrayal. They wanted revenge for years of suffering. They wanted justice for friends who had died in the mines. They became some of the fiercest fighters in the war, showing no mercy to Council forces. Engineer Sung Min worked to keep the fleet running. The quantum drives he had developed were performing better than expected, but they needed constant maintenance. He trained teams of engineers from allied species to help. He showed them how the drives worked, how to repair them, how to build new ones. Soon allied ships were using quantum drives too. The Council's advantage in numbers meant less when everyone could move as fast as human ships. Admiral Tae-sung watched as his fleet grew from 5,000 ships to 20,000, then 50,000. Not all of them were human ships anymore. Not all of his soldiers were human, but they all fought for the same cause. They all wanted to end the Council's rule. They all believed in what Earth was trying to build, a galaxy where no one species controlled all the others. The Council tried one last, desperate plan. They contacted the Vex Armada and offered them an even better deal. Not just Earth, but dozens of worlds, hundreds of worlds. Whatever the Vex wanted, they could have it, if they would just help the Council defeat humanity. The Vex considered the offer. They were warriors who lived for conquest. A war against humanity and its allies would be glorious. Many battles. Much honor. The Vex began moving their fleet toward Council space, but Admiral Tae-sung was ready for them. He had not forgotten about the Vex. While fighting the Council, he had been preparing for the Vex as well. He knew they would come eventually. Warriors like the Vex could never resist a good fight. He sent a message to the Vex Armada. The message challenged them to single combat. Not armies against armies, but champion against champion. If the Vex won, humanity would surrender. If humanity won, the Vex would leave Council space forever. It was a gamble, but Tae-sung knew the Vex culture. They valued honor above everything. They would not refuse a proper challenge. The Vex accepted. They chose their greatest warrior, a champion who had never lost a fight. Humanity chose Colonel Yoon-seo. She was smaller than the Vex warrior. She was weaker. By every physical measure, she should have lost easily. But Yoon-seo had something the Vex warrior did not. She had fought her entire life against opponents who were bigger and stronger. She had learned to win not through power, but through skill and intelligence. The fight lasted 10 minutes. In the end, the Vex warrior lay defeated and Yoon-seo stood victorious. The Vex kept their word. They withdrew their fleet from Council space. Some of them even asked to join humanity's cause. They said they respected strength and humanity had proven stronger than they expected. Tae-sung accepted their offer. The Vex who joined brought their own ships and warriors, making the alliance even more powerful. The Council had no allies left. Their military was destroyed. Their government was captured. Their lies were exposed. Species across the galaxy turned against them. Some Council members tried to flee to distant systems. Most were caught. A few escaped, but they would never have power again. The war that everyone thought would destroy humanity had instead destroyed the Council. What had started as betrayal and desperation had become something larger. It had become a revolution. The old order was breaking apart, and something new was being born in its place. Admiral Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at the reports. The Council was finished. The Vex were neutral. Dozens of species were free for the first time in their history. Earth had survived. Humanity had survived. Against impossible odds, they had won. But winning the war was only the beginning. Now came the harder part. Now they had to build something better than what they had destroyed. The war did not end with a single battle. It ended slowly over months as Council outposts surrendered one by one. Some went quietly. Some fought to the last soldier. But all of them fell eventually. The Council's power, built over thousands of years, crumbled in less than a year of fighting. History would remember it as one of the fastest collapses of any government in galactic history. Admiral Tae-sung sent messages to every species that had been part of the Council. He invited them to send representatives to a meeting on neutral ground. Not Earth, not Council Prime, a small world called Haven that no one had ever fought over. The message said that the galaxy needed a new way forward. The message said that every species deserved a voice in what came next. 40 species sent representatives. Some came because they trusted humanity. Some came because they were curious. Some came because they had nowhere else to go. The Council had been the center of galactic politics for so long that its absence left a huge empty space. Someone needed to fill that space. Everyone hoped it would not be filled by something worse. The meeting took place in a simple building with no decorations or fancy technology. Tae-sung wanted everyone to focus on ideas, not appearances. He stood before the assembled representatives and spoke honestly. He said that Earth had not fought the Council to become the next Council. Earth had fought for survival and freedom. Now that the fighting was over, Earth wanted to help build something better. He proposed a new alliance. Not a government that ruled over everyone. Not a council that made decisions for others. An alliance where every species was equal, where decisions were made together, where no one species could control the rest, where freedom and cooperation replaced domination and fear. Many of the representatives were skeptical. They had heard similar promises from the Council. The Council had talked about unity and cooperation too. But the Council had been lying. How could they know Earth was different? How could they trust that humanity would not become just another tyrant? Director Mi-young answered those questions. She explained that Earth was offering something the Council never did: shared power. In this new alliance, no single species would make all the decisions. Every member would have veto power over major choices. Every member would have access to all technology and knowledge. Every member would be able to leave if they wanted with no punishment or consequences. It sounded too good to be true. Several representatives said so directly. They said that no one would actually give away power like that. They said humans must have a hidden plan, some way to control everyone while pretending to be fair. Captain Da-Eun stepped forward. She had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now she spoke. She told them about finding the Council's betrayal. She told them about the choice her crew made to warn Earth, even though it meant becoming traitors. She told them about the fear and anger they felt when they learned their own species was going to be destroyed. She told them that humanity understood what it felt like to be powerless, to be used, to be betrayed. Earth would never do that to others because Earth remembered how it felt. Her words reached the representatives in a way that speeches and proposals could not. They heard the emotion in her voice. They saw the pain in her eyes. They understood that humanity's desire for a fair galaxy was not just politics. It was personal. One by one, the representatives agreed to join the new alliance. They signed documents promising to respect each other's sovereignty. They agreed to share technology and defend each other from threats. They agreed to settle disputes through discussion, not war. They agreed to build something that had never existed before, a true alliance of equals. The alliance needed a name. After much debate, they called it the Galactic Federation. It was a simple name, maybe too simple, but it represented what they hoped to create. A federation meant cooperation. It meant working together while staying separate. It meant unity without losing identity. Lieutenant Ji-woo worked on creating communication networks that connected all Federation members. Unlike the Council's networks, which the Council controlled completely, these networks were open. Every member could see what was being transmitted. Every member could verify that information was not being hidden or changed. Transparency was built into the system from the start. General Byung-ho helped establish Federation security forces. These forces were different from the Council's military. They were not meant to conquer or control. They were meant to protect and peacekeep. Soldiers from different species trained together. They learned each other's languages and customs. They became friends instead of just soldiers serving the same cause. Scientist Jae-hyun founded the Federation Research Initiative. It was an organization dedicated to sharing scientific knowledge across all member species. The Council had kept secrets and limited research. The Federation did the opposite. Researchers from different worlds worked together on projects that benefited everyone. Medical advances, energy technology, food production, space travel. Everything was shared freely. Some problems remained. There were species that had supported the Council until the end. There were criminals who had worked for the Council and now tried to hide. There were entire sectors of space where lawlessness had taken over after the Council fell. The Federation dealt with these problems slowly and carefully. They offered justice, not revenge. They offered rehabilitation, not punishment. They showed that the new way was different from the old way. Years passed. The galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Trade routes reopened. Old grudges faded. Species that had been enemies for centuries learned to cooperate. The Federation was not perfect. There were arguments and disagreements. There were times when members threatened to leave. But they worked through those problems together, and the Federation grew stronger each time. Earth became known as the species that had saved the galaxy. But Earth did not want that reputation. Director Mi-young always corrected anyone who said humans were special or superior. She said that humans had simply been in the right place at the right time. She said that any species would have done the same thing if they had the chance. She said that what made the Federation work was not one species being better than others, but all species being equal. Admiral Tae-sung retired from active military service. He had spent years fighting and did not want to spend more years preparing for the next fight. Instead, he became an ambassador. He traveled to different worlds and spoke with their leaders. He listened to their concerns and helped resolve disputes. He became a symbol of what the Federation stood for: strength used to protect, not to dominate. Captain Da-eun took command of the Federation patrol fleet. Her ships traveled through space, responding to distress calls and stopping pirates. She remembered what it felt like when the Indomitable was alone in Council space, surrounded by enemies. She made sure no Federation ship would ever feel that way. Help was always available. No one was ever truly alone. Commander Juan wrote the official history of the war against the Council. He wanted to make sure future generations understood what had happened and why. He wanted them to know that freedom was not free. It had to be fought for. It had to be protected. It had to be earned again and again through hard choices and brave actions. Colonel Yun Seo continued training soldiers, but now she trained them differently. She taught them that being a soldier was about more than fighting. It was about protecting those who could not protect themselves. It was about serving something larger than yourself. It was about making sure that no one ever suffered the way people had suffered under the Council. Engineer Sung Min built new ships for the Federation. These ships were designed for exploration and research, not just war. They carried scientists and diplomats. They made first contact with species that had never known the Council existed. They spread the message that the galaxy was safe now, that cooperation was possible, that a better future was within reach. The Council's betrayal had been meant to destroy humanity. Instead, it had awakened something in humans that the galaxy desperately needed: determination, courage, a refusal to accept tyranny, a willingness to fight for what was right, even against impossible odds. These qualities had saved Earth. Now they were helping to save the entire galaxy. There were still threats out there. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but now those dangers would be faced together. The Federation stood as proof that different species could work as one, that freedom was worth fighting for, that betrayal could be overcome and transformed into something positive. The Council had thought humans were just weapons, tools to be used and discarded. They had been wrong. Humans were builders. Humans were protectors. Humans were the species that turned their darkest moment into the galaxy's brightest hope. The Council's betrayal had unleashed human determination, and that determination had rewritten history. Earth's fleet had arrived bringing total destruction, just as the title promised. But what they destroyed was not just the Council's military. They destroyed the idea that might made right. They destroyed the belief that some species were meant to rule others. They destroyed the old way of thinking that had kept the galaxy in chains for thousands of years. And in destroying the old, they built something new. Something better. Something that would last not because it was the strongest, but because it was fair.